Welcome back to Dinar Community Channel. The financial world has been turned upside down in recent days as dinar holders across the globe scramble to exchange their currency before windows close, exchange centers overflow, and banks strain to meet demand. What was once a patient waiting game has now become a high-intensity rush as millions of investors, many of whom have held Iraqi dinar for years if not decades, suddenly find themselves at the center of a historic shift. The revaluation of the dinar, long whispered about in private forums and financial circles, is no longer a question of speculation. It has arrived, and the rush to the banks tells the story better than any official announcement ever could. For years, the Iraqi dinar has been viewed as a speculative currency, often dismissed by mainstream financial voices but fiercely defended and anticipated by loyal holders who believed that one day Iraq's economic recovery and integration into global markets would trigger a dramatic upward adjustment. Those who studied Iraq's natural resources, particularly its oil reserves, and who followed the rebuilding efforts after years of conflict, understood that the currency was undervalued relative to the nation's potential. That belief has now crystallized into reality as global banks confirm the activation of new exchange rates and governments prepare for the ripple effects across economies. What makes the current moment so explosive is not merely the rate adjustment itself but the sheer scale of participation. Exchange centers from New York to Dubai, from London to Sydney, report unprecedented lines stretching outside their doors. Individuals clutching folders, envelopes, and safes filled with carefully preserved dinar notes are waiting for hours just to be ushered inside. Some centers, overwhelmed by the numbers, have shifted to appointment-only systems, while others are running 24-hour operations to accommodate the flood. In every case, the mood is charged with urgency, excitement, and a palpable sense of history in the making. The race against the clock is not simply symbolic. Exchange centers and banks have confirmed that redemption windows will not remain open indefinitely. Just as with any currency adjustment, logistical limitations, security protocols, and structured rollout plans dictate that access will be staged and monitored. Those who arrive early are guaranteed smoother processing, while those who wait risk encountering delays, reduced liquidity, or even capped allotments. This has fueled a frenzy of activity, with entire families mobilizing to ensure they do not miss their chance. Stories from the exchange floors reveal a striking mix of emotions. Some investors are jubilant, hugging one another and breaking down in tears as they finally cash in after years of skepticism from friends and family. Others are tense, worried about paperwork, identification requirements, or missing out on contract rates that may only be available for a limited time. Bank representatives, while professional, admit privately that they have never witnessed anything on this scale. One branch manager compared it to a financial Black Friday, except the stakes are millions of dollars, not flat-screen TVs. At the center of this tidal wave is Iraq itself, whose government has confirmed the currency reform as part of a broader strategy to stabilize its economy, attract foreign investment, and assert sovereignty in global markets. Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani has positioned the revaluation not as a mere financial adjustment but as a cornerstone of national renewal. International observers note that Iraq's integration into the World Trade Organization, increased oil exports, and regional partnerships all played roles in creating the conditions necessary for this moment. For Iraqi citizens themselves, the RV is a double-edged sword. It symbolizes newfound economic legitimacy, but it also introduces challenges of inflation, market recalibration, and public expectation management. The global dinar community, long connected through online forums, social media groups, and private newsletters, is now mobilized in ways that feel almost militarized. Checklists circulate, advising holders to prepare multiple forms of identification, record serial numbers, and secure notarized documents. Private chat rooms buzz with updates from those who have successfully exchanged, detailing which banks are moving fastest, what rates are being honored, and which rumors are merely noise. In this way, the community that once sustained itself on hope is now functioning as a real-time intelligence network guiding people through the chaos. Meanwhile, governments and regulators are watching closely. The sudden transfer of wealth poses risks as well as opportunities. Anti-money laundering laws, tax implications, and capital controls are all being reviewed and enforced. Investors are being reminded that while the dinar's revaluation is real, it does not exempt them from financial responsibilities. Many centers are requiring declarations of funds and formal agreements to ensure that large transactions comply with national and international law. Failure to follow these guidelines could result in frozen accounts, audits, or worse. This regulatory oversight has created a new layer of urgency. It is not just about racing to exchange before the window narrows, but also about ensuring compliance in a process that is far more complex than a standard currency swap. Seasoned financial planners have stepped in to offer guidance, and seminars are springing up to educate dinar holders on how to safeguard their wealth, reduce tax burdens, and avoid scams. The message is clear. While the RV opens doors to life-changing wealth, mishandling the process could just as easily close them. The psychological impact of this historic moment cannot be overstated. Many dinar holders describe sleepless nights, adrenaline surges, and the surreal feeling of watching long-dismissed dreams materialize. For some, the money represents freedom from debt, the ability to buy a home, or the chance to retire early. For others, it is about philanthropy, funding community projects, or finally being able to provide stability for future generations. Yet underneath the euphoria runs a current of anxiety. Will the rate hold? Will the banks deliver? Will unforeseen complications derail the process? These questions hover in every exchange line and echo across every digital forum. Exchange centers themselves are adapting on the fly. Security has been dramatically increased, with armored vehicles ferrying notes to and from central banks, guards stationed at entrances, and surveillance systems upgraded to handle the crowds. Staff are working overtime, and many centers have brought in reinforcements from neighboring branches. Some banks have even erected temporary tents and waiting areas outside their main buildings to shield customers from weather as they wait. Still, frustration is inevitable. Stories of people camping overnight, fainting from exhaustion, or clashing with others in line have become part of the unfolding drama. Amid the chaos, stories of humanity and resilience shine through. In one U.S. city, volunteers passed out water bottles and snacks to people waiting in long lines. In another, a retired veteran brought lawn chairs and distributed them to elderly dinar holders who could not stand for hours. Families are showing up in groups, supporting one another, and sharing information as they inch closer to the counters. For many, the RV is not just about individual gain but about collective triumph after years of ridicule and doubt. Markets around the world are also reacting. Currency traders, hedge funds, and investment analysts are scrambling to adjust positions, recalibrate risk models, and prepare for the downstream effects of a major currency entering global circulation at a new valuation. While the dinar itself is at the heart of the frenzy, its revaluation is triggering questions about other undervalued currencies, particularly the Vietnamese dong, which has also been the subject of speculation. If Iraq can pull this off, what might follow in other emerging economies? The domino effect could reshape global finance in ways that even seasoned economists did not anticipate. Within Iraq, the streets of Baghdad, Basra, and Erbil are alive with energy. Citizens are lining up at local banks, watching rate tickers, and debating what the future holds. Shopkeepers are recalculating prices, businesses are reviewing contracts, and ordinary people are wondering how far their salaries will stretch under the new paradigm. While international investors may view the RV as a windfall, for Iraqis it is a daily reality, with both opportunities and challenges. The government has promised to protect citizens from runaway inflation and to channel newfound stability into infrastructure and public services, but the process will be closely scrutinized. The race against time has also intensified the presence of scams and opportunists. Fake exchange offers, fraudulent brokers, and misleading contracts are proliferating. Authorities have issued warnings to dinar holders, urging them to only deal with verified banks and authorized exchange centers. Unfortunately, in moments of frenzy, desperation can lead to poor decisions. Some individuals have already reported losing portions of their holdings to bad actors posing as legitimate facilitators. The community has responded with vigilance, sharing red flags and exposing suspicious activities wherever they surface. As the days unfold, the question on everyone's mind is how long this window will remain open and what the final outcome will be for different classes of dinar holders. Will contract rates last? Will smaller investors be squeezed out in favor of large institutional exchanges? Will the rate climb further, or is this the peak? Each passing hour brings new developments, new confirmations, and new rumors. The only certainty is that the world has crossed a threshold that can never be reversed. For those on the ground, the experience feels like living inside a historic chapter. Journalists are documenting stories, Financial historians are taking notes, and ordinary citizens are capturing videos on their phones that will likely become viral records of this moment. When future generations look back, they will see not just charts and rates but the human faces of those who stood in line, who carried bundles of notes, who waited years for a breakthrough and then sprinted to secure their share. What began as a speculative journey is now an unfolding reality, and the stakes could not be higher. The dinar revaluation is more than a financial event. It is a human story of patience, belief, struggle, and the explosive release of anticipation into action. It is about people racing the clock, exchange centers overflowing, and the transformation of hope into tangible change. Whether the final chapters are written in triumph, caution, or a mix of both, one thing is certain: the world is watching, and the dinar community will never be the same. And so the lines continue to grow, the appointments continue to book, and the armored trucks continue their steady march. Each day feels like a countdown. Each transaction feels like a victory. Each signature on the dotted line echoes years of waiting finally rewarded. In this race against time, the dinar holders of the world are not just participants in a currency exchange, they are witnesses to and authors of a financial revolution that is reshaping history in real time. Like and subscribe for more videos.